Good morning. It's Tuesday, October 29th. It is 7:52 in the morning here in Western Iowa. How are you doing this morning? I'm good. Thanks for asking. All right, we got a lot to get to today because there's a lot going on in the weather. We had a boring hot tober, but it's ending with some excitement, and that's going to continue through the first half of November at least. So let's check it out. First of all, today's hazards. A lot of wind on this map, but we'll start up there in northern Washington. We have, is that a winter weather advisory? I do believe so. Be advised, maybe some winter weather in northern Washington. We have freeze warnings north of the San Francisco Bay Area, Northern California, coastal areas, freeze warnings. Down in Southern California, into Las Vegas, into Arizona, even parts of New Mexico. We have wind advisories here. Be advised, more wind. Further to the north of Vegas, Area 51 area ish in Nevada. We're looking at, is that winter weather advisories? I do believe so. And that goes into Utah as well, along with some wind in Utah too. Some more wind advisories there. A freeze watch around Farmington. No, I'm sorry, that's not Farmington. That's uh, up there in northwestern Arizona. I was thinking northwestern New Mexico for some reason. Anyway, meanwhile, back in the Four Corners in Colorado, we have more snow. Winter weather advisories there as well. Also up into Wyoming and parts of Montana. Some of that is winter storm warnings in the pink. And then we have some wind thrown in there as well with some, looks like a high wind watch for parts of Wyoming, southern Wyoming. Then you get into northeastern New Mexico, into the Texas, Oklahoma panhandles, high wind watch, red flag warnings all over the place from eastern Colorado into the panhandles of Texas, Oklahoma, into western Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma, Kansas, red flag warnings all over the place here. Wind advisories as you get further into eastern Kansas, parts of Missouri, into Nebraska around Lincoln, south of Omaha. I don't know why our watches and warnings aren't showing up here, but we also have a red flag warning in western Iowa. We also have wind advisories here in western Iowa. So, but not on this map. And then, luckily for you, I live here, so I can tell you. Anyway, we go to the East Coast. Big area of freeze warnings here. Virginia all the way up into southern New Jersey, parts of Pennsylvania, Maryland included, Delaware, U2, and a little tiny county there in New York State. And a little bit of fog, central Tennessee, and also down in parts of East Texas, Louisiana, into Mississippi. I think I got everybody here. Well, maybe I missed something. We're close. All right, let's go to our weather spotlight. Norman, Oklahoma, we have a two-parter here on our weather spotlight. Today's maximum wind gusts. That's a big story for the plains today. And yeah, up there in Oklahoma City, 40 to 45 mile an hour wind gusts, but you go northwest of there, 50 to 55 in Woodward. It's a good day to fly a kite. No, it's a good day to be a kite. Wichita Falls, 40 to 45 mile an hour winds. A little less on the wind as you head into like Durant, into Ada, 30 to 35, but still gusty. Weather spotlight, part 2. Wednesday, severe and widespread. Severe, slight is our range here for severe for Oklahoma City down to Wichita Falls, Clinton, up to I'll just go with Enid because I can say Enid. Ada, Durant, you're included. And so we're looking at a low tornado potential up to golf ball size hail and 60 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts with some of those storms. Yikes. We'll get more into the severe weather here in a second. But let's go to today's surface, shall we? Here we go. Just a huge storm for the western half of the country almost, with rain or snow or rain mixed with snow or heavy snow, depending on elevation and location. So Wyoming, for example, lots of heavy snow across the state. Pockets of heavy snow in Colorado and Utah. Some snow back into Nevada, Idaho, Montana. Even parts of South Dakota. I said Black Mountains yesterday, Black Hills. Heavy, it happens. Again, we're doing these as if they're live, so no edits. We're just going for it. Anyway, rain mix with snow, South Dakota, North Dakota. There's your extreme fire, your critical fire weather possible. Eastern Colorado into Kansas, Oklahoma Panhandle into the Texas Panhandle. But as we've seen, I mean, just a widespread area of fire danger and high winds in the plains today. And maybe some showers too ahead of our system from Texas all the way up to Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. It's more scattered showers for Florida into South Carolina, North Carolina, and more of a steady rain, I guess, for those that get it for Pennsylvania, New York, and the rest of the Northeast. So that's how the surface looks today. Here's how the severe weather looks today. And tomorrow's the bigger chance, but today a marginal risk for some severe storms for parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, into Nebraska and Iowa. This is going to be late tonight for western Iowa, say, and also into like Omaha and Lincoln. We're talking more tonight, maybe before midnight, but after midnight and tomorrow is our bigger risk here. Temperature anomalies for today. How much below average are we going to be and where? Well, we're going to be much below average. Nevada, California, Arizona, especially Utah. I mean, we're 30 degrees below average for some places here. Teens to near 20 below average for Wyoming, and expecting that heavy snow too. Then we get, east of that, east of the Rockies really, is where the temperatures are going to be very warm, especially with those gusty southerly winds bringing that warm air north. And also, you get a little bit of downhill component to those winds. You get a little bit of compressing of the air, which also helps to heat up the air. But anyway, 20 degrees above average for western Kansas into Nebraska, 25 to 30 degrees above average for Iowa into Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois. You get the idea. It's just very warm center part of the country. And then a little bit below average for Maine and Massachusetts. And that translates to these kinds of highs. So average temperatures for the Carolinas, for example, 70s today. Further to the north, average temperatures are slightly below average for Maine, mid to upper 50s. So, it makes sense. All right, for the southeast, for example, we have 70s for Georgia, but 80s for Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, into Texas, up the plains as well, even 80s here in Iowa. Crazy. But behind the front in the northern plains, cooling off quite a bit into the 50s for South Dakota, North Dakota, into Montana. And Wyoming, we're expecting a lot of our snow, a lot of low 40s and 30s here, which makes sense if you're expecting snow. Also, Utah, some chilliness going on along with Colorado. Most of the west, here where it's below average, cool temperatures as you might expect. A little warmer along the coast, which is typical 50s for Oregon and Washington, Northern California coast. We have some 60s Central California. We're still pretty warm in the desert southwest of, say, southern Arizona, but cooling off quite a bit here. Even though it's warm, it's usually warm, even in the wintertime there. All right, low temperatures to start the day tomorrow. Lots of teens in the west, although some 40s along the coast. So teens and some 20s, though, for much of the west. Again, you get east of the Rockies, and that's where it's warmer to start the day. Lots of 60s here. The 50s further to the east. But you see the cold front moving through the northern plains, central plains now. So starting to cool off here. Lows, to start the day tomorrow, 40s and some 30s. And that'll be spreading a little bit further east and south as we get into, say, Halloween. So tomorrow, a very active day in the plains. And we'll get more into that in a second. North of that, in the northern plains, our rain turning to snow or mixing with snow, Minnesota, South Dakota, Nebraska, North Dakota. Heavy snow continuing for parts of Wyoming and into Colorado and Utah, some snow, northern New Mexico. So wax those skis, Taos. Could be time soon. All right, another system moving into the Pacific Northwest is where our active pattern really gets going as we get closer to November. Up in Maine, a little bit of rain. That rhymed. Scattered, scattered showers for Florida, into Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina. Out ahead of our front in the plains, that's where we see our scattered showers and storms and some severe for the center part of the country. We're talking Dallas, Fort Worth. So the slight risk in yellow, Dallas, Fort Worth, through Oklahoma City, through Tulsa, through Wichita, Kansas, into Kansas City, north to almost Des Moines, Lincoln, Nebraska. So that's our slight risk. Then our marginal risk goes all the way up to Madison, Wisconsin, and all the way down to almost San Antonio, east to Little Rock and St. Louis. So a large area here of a marginal risk of severe, and even a risk of tornadoes tomorrow with these storms as we zoom in the center part of the country. So Oklahoma City up through Wichita, Kansas, up towards Kansas City are 5% in the brown here of possible tornadoes almost to Tulsa. Our 2% gets all the way down to Dallas, Fort Worth, and as far north as 2 counties south of me in southwestern Iowa. So threat of tornadoes is real tomorrow, and that 5%, especially Oklahoma into Kansas. All right, temperatures for tomorrow. Here's how much below average we're going to be. Much below average now, moving in to western Nebraska, southwestern South Dakota in the Black Hills, for example. Wyoming also teens below average down into Utah, Nevada, northern Arizona, northern New Mexico, all the way back to the west coast. Meanwhile, further east, that's where it's really warm, moving now into the Great Lakes and the Midwest with 20 plus degrees above average. And where I'm sitting here, northeast of Omaha, Omaha is going from above average to 5 degrees below average for tomorrow as that cold front continues to move east and southward. And so those highs look like this in the southeast where it's warm, 80s, transitioning into 70s as you get into Tennessee, Kentucky. Even, up towards Pennsylvania, New York, still plenty of 70s that far north, although 50s in Maine. And behind the front in the plains, we're looking at 40s for western Nebraska, the Dakotas up into also Minnesota. Excuse me, sorry about that. But ahead of the front, so, we have, say, 53 degrees or so for Hastings, Nebraska, and then you have 74 for Des Moines. So there's definitely a front in here, 20-degree difference. Down in Texas, 80s, even a couple 90s. But you see the cold pocket there across the Rockies in the west and all the way to the west coast. Our 48-hour precipitation, things getting very active, and we'll show you round after round of system as we get into November when we get to the GFS. But our bullseye for the heaviest rain, Iowa into Wisconsin. So from Green Bay all the way down to almost Omaha is our stripe of the heaviest rainfall. Could approach 4 inches of rain for some in this area. And then around that, still some decent rains all the way down into, say, Oklahoma, Arkansas. You're still looking at up to a couple inches of rain here. Pacific Northwest, too, along the coast of Oregon, Washington. That's why they have rainforests there that get over 100 inches of rain a year, say, for the Olympic Peninsula, and expecting a couple inches of rain in the next couple days here as well. All right, our surface for Halloween. It's getting close, so now we're getting really dialing in the forecast. And so here's where you might see some rain, and this is going to be from west to east during the day. So once you get to trick-or-treat time, more on the eastern side of this area of showers and thunderstorms. So, but you see that front in the morning from Wisconsin through Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Texas will be moving further to the east during the day. So you may clear some of these rain showers by trick-or-treat time. But here's a look at the day for Halloween. Scattered showers and storms moving into, the southeast, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, into the Great Lakes. Some of that mixing with snow, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. and some rain moving into the warm northeast. And meanwhile, Pacific Northwest, another chilly low moving in with some heavy snow possible for the Oregon Cascades, the Siskiyous of Northern California, and even some pockets in eastern Oregon, some mountains there, the Umpquas, I believe, if I remember right. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Some snow, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, too, parts of Utah. And so that's how the surface looks for Halloween. Here are your anomalous temperatures for Halloween, and the plains cooling off with that cold front. So now we're back to pretty much average from West Texas all the way up to the Canadian border and all the way into the eastern Great Lakes, or the western Great Lakes. The eastern Great Lakes still much above average ahead of that front. And back to the Pacific Northwest, that next system, keeping things well below average. Those highs look like this. So for Portland and Eugene, low 50s for Seattle, 60s Central California. And these are highs on Halloween. Now, it's still warm in the desert Southwest, some 80s here. But, the West is fairly cool. Now, the plains are now fairly cool too. Central Plains, 60s. As you head transition into northern plains, we see more 50s and even 40s. And 40s definitely up there in the upper Midwest. But then you get to the eastern Great Lakes and temperatures are quite warm. 70s, mid 70s for Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee in the 80s. We see more 80s southeast. So very warm temperatures for highs on Halloween, especially, for the East Coast. Then we're going to take a look now at our GFS. We're going to show you this pattern change as we go because it's kind of a dramatic flip. So we're starting out this morning with our system here in the Great Basin moving into the Central Rockies. Rain and snow for Utah, Colorado, Wyoming mainly. And some of that on the heavy side. So as we get into this afternoon, Wyoming just getting a lot of heavy snow. Some of that trailing back into Utah and Colorado. And so that looks pretty good. If you like snow, Wyoming's the place to be, but you probably already knew that. That is rain, though, as you get into the Dakotas. This gets us to late tonight, now moving into tomorrow. Now, again, you see these lines of equal pressure really close together. So we have wind moving through the plains and into the Midwest as this low continues, and behind that our cold front. So here we go into now tomorrow. This is early morning tomorrow. This is later in the day tomorrow. And don't forget our severe weather potential here as well, and our tornado potential here as well. Excuse me, as we go through the day tomorrow. Let me take a drink of water. Much better, maybe. We'll see. Anyway, so this is where we're going to see showers and storms busting out. Some of these severe, large hail, strong winds. Further to the south, near the actual surface low itself, a chance of tornadoes. But some very heavy rain. Remember, we showed that bullseye for the heaviest rain the next 2 days is Iowa into Wisconsin. And this is why. So this gets us into tomorrow evening, moving into tomorrow later at night. And you see also the front now sharpening up as we head into midnight tomorrow night and then into early the day on Halloween. So heavy rain moving into the Great Lakes. Along this front, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Texas, our next system for the Pacific Northwest, spreading some rain and snow. Our system here in the Great Lakes spreading some snow back in the upper Midwest, but mostly it's rain and even thunderstorms along that front Halloween day. So that was the morning. This gets us to about noontime. This gets us into the early afternoon. And again, that front moving east. So your trick-or-treat time, it depends on where that front ends up, on where we're going to see showers and storms. But this is getting close to trick-or-treat time, so you kind of get an idea of where those showers and storms may be. And then Pacific Northwest with our storm moving in, chilly rain on the coast, snow, higher elevations. Now, we're getting into November, so we're going to see wave after wave. Here's a wave. So we're seeing troughs being dug in the west, and then those showers and storms being ejected into the plains, into the Midwest. So this is Saturday, and you see that wave moving into the Midwest. Another wave behind that. So all the way from Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin, then another wave behind that. This is getting into Monday. Some very heavy rainfall, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri. See snow back behind that. And moving into the Great Lakes. And again, so very active on this pattern. Heavy rain, Missouri, Kansas. This gets us into Monday. Some snow for western Nebraska, eastern Colorado, Wyoming. Another front moving through. And so then we see some more showers moving into the upper Midwest. Another front with some storms along that. Cold air diving south on Tuesday. This is election day, your election day forecast. Showers and storms from Texas into Arkansas. Arkansas, Oklahoma, into Missouri, Illinois. Might be dodging some storms in this area on election day if you're voting on election day. Yeah, vote early. Why not? All right. Also, another for the Pacific Northwest, we're seeing another system move in here, and that's going to be the pattern. So we've got systems diving southward, being ejected into the plains, warming up in the plains, cooling off in the plains, warming up in the plains, cooling off in the plains. And then that cool air also moving through the Great Lakes and east, so it's kind of the temperature roller coaster, which is kind of typical, I guess, for fall. But we're not seeing any cold air intrusions really get entrenched and staying. But the west is unsettled and then sending waves, wave after wave into the plains. There's another one that's by the 13th. So, you know what I mean? It just continues. That's going to be our pattern change as we get into November. And I'm here for it. I like the excitement. All right. 6 to 10 day temperatures. Again, warming up in the plains and cooling off in the plains. Warming up in the plains, cooling off in the plains. But the west is staying unsettled and cool for the next 6 to 10 days. So this is November 3rd through the 7th. And then precipitation-wise, we're seeing wave after wave after wave of showers and storms from the Four Corners into Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, and then even the lighter green still above average chances of above average precipitation all the way from the Great Lakes back to the southwest and into parts of the southeast. So this is really good news for the center part of the country. We will take it. So the consultants always told me as a weatherman, we need the forecast through the weekend because that's what people want. We've already gone through this weekend that's almost here. Well, coming up. But let's take a look. Oh, no, this is the weekend coming up. So anyway, I just want to make sure you have the forecast for the weekend. So this is Saturday, anomalous temperatures Sunday. So I put them back to back so you can kind of get the trend. And so look at that cooler air spreading into the west and further south, even into Mexico, as our next trough dives south into the west, which actually warms up the plains a little bit before that system gets ejected into the plains, and then we have a cold front behind it. So the upcoming weekend, yes, we're going to have a cool off in the plains for Halloween, but we're going to warm back up by this weekend as far as, temperatures above average, especially as you get into the Ohio Valley, Midwest, down into Kentucky, Arkansas for Sunday. Saturday not so bad, maybe southeast pretty hot, but then Sunday that spreads further into, say, the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley and parts of the southeast. Meanwhile, getting colder in the west from Saturday to Sunday. Now, high temperatures on Saturday look like this. 80s southeast, 70s into Tennessee, Kentucky, 70s transitioning to 60s in the mid-Atlantic. Then further north, it's, we still have 50s to near 60 here in Iowa, even though we're above average with these temperatures. It's supposed to be cooler than this. 50s, even, 50s, we'll call it, some 40s up in North Dakota and the upper Midwest. And then, the West is, the cool place where we still see mid-50s, say for Eugene, Oregon, and along the coast, but 40s inland and especially with elevation. Now, cooling off in the West on Sunday, It's not super dramatic on the highs, but it's there. And also cooling off a little bit in the northern plains as a cold front pushes a little bit further to the south, but staying warm, for the Ohio Valley, actually warming up and also into, say, the center part of, the center part of the country south. So still pretty warm this weekend for a lot of people. So that the big news, of course, is our severe weather that's coming tomorrow with the possibility of some tornadoes, Oklahoma, Kansas, and some heavy rainfall for Iowa into Wisconsin. Another system and a series of systems moving into the west and then being ejected into the plains for the first 2 weeks of November. So big changes coming and are already here. And we'll keep you posted as we go. I wake up every morning. I can't wait to dive in because I want to see what's going to happen too. So I just have fun sharing it with you. And there's a few of you that are diehard that come back and watch, and I really appreciate it. And if you're still here after 26 minutes, my hat's off to you. So yeah, I'm not even wearing a hat today. So anyway, I really appreciate it. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow morning on the Weather Mic. Have a great day.